It's Jordan Mulligan from the Mulligan Brothers, and today's interview highlight is with Clint Emerson. An absolutely incredible story of when Clint went scuba diving as a child and his scuba diver instructor almost left him for dead. It's an incredible story. It is a life-changing moment for Clint, and there's a lot of lessons to be taken from it. Before we jump into the video, today's video was sponsored by Mulliganbrothers.com, where you can now buy the Hardest Worker in the Room t-shirts, the Inspire Change t-shirts, the Not a Journals as well are on there. All that support makes this possible, so thank you for everybody. Linked in the description below. And also you can become a channel member with the join button down below. Before that, let's jump into the highlight.
My first open water dive was with my Boy Scout master, right? This guy takes us out to Korea Beach, which is the Persian Gulf, okay? And it's up near Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. And he's like, all right, we're just gonna go dive and just stay with me and you know, we'll have a good time. And we were at a place called Tyre Reef. And if you've ever paid attention to vehicles that operate in the desert, you know, when you're working on oil refineries and stuff, the tires on these vehicles are the size of this room, okay? And so there is a reef, man-made reef built of all these huge desert operation vehicles, tires, right? And so super cool. Anyway, I hear all about it, and this is my first time. And there's a pier, and you walk to that end of that pier, and you basically jump in, go down to the bottom, there's a rope that guides you, and you just go along the bottom, and eventually you end up at Tyre Reef, okay? Well, the day we went, we walk out to the end of the pier and there's nothing but a sea and swarm of jellyfish. And my scoutmaster, an adult, I'm a kid, he's like, don't worry about it. Just, you know, we'll go ahead and we'll just jump right through them and go straight to the bottom. I'll meet you down there. And he just leaves. And I'm kind of like, what the f just happened, right? So I'm like, all right, so, you know, hold on, step off into these jellyfish. And then of course, as I go to the bottom, I'm feeling the stings around my face, anywhere skin's exposed. But once you get to the bottom and you're in cold water, you don't even feel it anymore. So it wasn't as big a deal as it looked. But, you know, talk about facing fear and not having time to even think about it. You know, it was pretty interesting. So now we get to the bottom, I see him, and then he's like, all right, let's go. Grabs a line, I'm behind him. All I see is his fins. He's kicking up, you know, sand off the bottom. Just following the dust trail, pull along, and we get there, and it's just this magnificent, you know, museum of tires. Some of them are upright, some of them are down on their sides, some of them are stacked. Some of them you can actually, that are upright, you can get up inside of them, fill it with, you know, your exhale, bubbles, and then go up into the bubble, take your mask off, and have a conversation. And so we did that. And then we start kind of wandering around, checking stuff out. I've got hot dogs. I'm feeding these massive angelfish and all of these different fish. And before you know it, he's gone. I don't know where this dude is, right? He's an adult. He's not even near me. And I'm kind of searching visually at first. And then eventually I start kind of actually going out and scouting around all these tires. Like, okay. Then I look up and I'm looking for bubbles, right? You can look. It was crystal clear, and I saw like no bubbles anywhere coming up, right? So I'm like, man, this guy's either gone or dead or whatever happened, right? And so I started getting nervous. And at this point, I'm circling the Tyre Reef, and I can't find the rope. So I don't know which direction is home. And long story short, I end up, you know, battling the decision-making process and go, all right, I guess I'll just go to the surface and figure out which way is home. So I surface, right? And I look, and I can barely see land. Kicking as hard as I can to get my chest out of the water, to get enough height, and I can see, because it's real choppy up on the surface. It was a windy day. And so I could go back down and hope that I go the right direction, or I could just turtle back or turtle kick all the way in. So that's what I decided to do, because I didn't want to lose sight of home, right? And I turtle kick my way back, get to shore, you know, basically get spit out by the surf zone onto the beach, tumble in, covered in sand, my mask is sideways, my regulator's done, and I see this guy sitting at the park bench just down the beach, right? And even at this point, I'm probably 12, 13 years old, and I'm thinking to myself, like, why would he like just leave me there? And I walk up to that park bench. I'm like, did something happen? He's like, no. Did you have a great dive? I'm like, what happened to like, you never leave your dive buddy, never leave your swim buddy, you never do that. And this guy made me feel like I was crazy for actually being concerned about that. But it was those experiences that then I was like, I did it. I was fine, and I was by myself and got through it, and I'm alive. So no big deal. And I just kind of brushed it off myself and moved on. But it was an interesting first experience, diving. And it was in the Persian Gulf of all places where I ended up diving a lot later on in life, So I continued to just chase down any training or any education I could to hopefully make myself better or more qualified to be a SEAL later on in life, even though I was kind of traveling blind. There weren't as many SEAL books out on the market. There were no movies. There wasn't anything really. I remember one book in the library, and it was all pictures of guys coming out of the water. And I was like, okay, water, guns, okay, cool. But it didn't really tell you anything. It didn't tell you like, how do you get through buds? There was none of that. Obviously, you can just Google it and, 1,000 SEALs talking about how to get through buds, but not then. There was none of that. So I really was just trying to learn, educate myself, and train in the blind. It was always at the forefront of my mind, but I knew, okay, I got to get through, high school, and I probably should get through college, because that's what we all do. We go from high school to college, and we get a job, and we get married, and we have 2.5 kids, and we have 3.4 cars, and, it's all programmed into us. So get through college, and it was still a battle, even with my parents. Like, I'm going to go in the Navy. And they're like, no, we'd rather you just, do what everyone else does. I'm like, no, I can't do that. Got to keep on going. So anyway, I ended up joining the Navy and did what I could to hopefully set myself up for success. And it turns out some of those things worked, and some of them were just, kind of like Hollywood ideas that made me think it would help, when I joined the SEAL teams. Well, my dad was definitely he was always a tinkerer. He was always busy. He never sat down to watch TV, hardly ever at all. He was always doing something, and I was always his little gopher. I think having him as an example, and watching just how busy he always stayed, and he kind of followed the same mantra of always learning something new, being a student. But what's funny is he was always an instructor or a professor as well, So when we came back to the States, he taught for one of the universities here in Texas. So, and I think seeing him and learning from him kind of just set me on that path of always wanting to learn new things and always staying busy. And if I'm not busy, then I'm usually pacing the floor out of boredom, as my daughter will remind me, like, Dad, you're pacing again. And it's like, oh, okay, sorry. But yeah, it's always just been there to learn and strive and keep going. As a kid and getting to see that, I think I was fortunate, because, there's a lot of kids that probably just see their parents sitting around doing nothing. And so they end up following that same path. So I just got lucky with a great dad. I kind of give it all to him. And then we both were in the scouting world. He was one of the dads helping with scouts. And then of course I worked my way up through the leadership positions within the Boy Scouts to where, I was a troop leader by the time I was done. And I think that too certainly helped with following that dream, because back then everything you did in scouting was outdoors and archery and canoeing, and you were earning merit badges that gave you skills in life. And I just always thought that was cool, and just wanted to keep on learning as much as I could. And every year we would go to Germany to Camp Freedom, and it was run by a bunch of Army Special Operation guys. So you'd have a whole bunch of scouts from all over the world show up for this 2-week period in Germany, and all you did was learn wilderness survival, just all the sexy stuff a kid wants to learn. You learned it in 2 weeks in one spot by professional soldiers, you know? So that too was pretty cool.
And there you go, an amazing story from Clint. I don't know what I personally would do in that situation. We like to all think that we would survive and we would find a way of surviving. Until you're in one of those situations, you would never know. And it is just, water for me is one of those frightening things. It is a scary story, but there's some amazing lessons there to be taken from it. And for me, this was one of my favorite stories from Clint, and he had loads to give. So please head over to Instagram and follow Clint. You can see a lot of the stuff he gets up to. His new book is actually linked down below, which is all about survival. Really interesting book. Yeah, that is linked down below. And also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Jordan Mulliganbrother. Today's video was sponsored by Mulliganbrothers.com, where you can support what we are trying to do, the movement of inspire change. Everything that we get from that website makes this possible and means that we are going to go around the world finding the best stories, the most inspirational people, and create this content for free for you guys, so you can share it with the world and hopefully use it to inspire change in your life and other people's lives. If you enjoyed the video, share the video. Also, you can support the channel by becoming a member with a join button down below. All the support is appreciated. But that's all from me, guys. Have a blessed and productive day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.